call the workshop to order. We don't have a printed agenda, but the only item on the agenda is Chief Hedrick to talk about fire department overtime, and he has passed out a sheet that kind of has some numbers on it for everybody.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the local agenda.
Okay.
Second.
So motion and second. And anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Go ahead, Chief, take it away.
Yeah, I'll explain what you're looking at. We met with the Finance Committee a couple weeks ago in regards to overtime expenditure for the year. In my 100 series line item, currently in that line item, I show that I have 23,000 remaining. We've got 5 months left, and that's not completely accurate because the last pay overtime of the year of December goes to the next year. So we really have 9 more pays to make instead of 10. What you're looking at here is that after talking to President Owen, what we discussed at the Finance Committee meeting is the day's leave that has contributed to some of the overtime. One of the things that always contributes to overtime, of course, are the leave days, sick leave, injuries, and things like that, but it's also the timing of the injuries, because if multiple people are off at the same time opposed to an injury happening once a month, we can deal with a lot easier than multiple injuries happening at one time. And that's what happened earlier in the year. What I wanted to do also is I printed out, or I got the data for you of what overtime has been put on each pay cycle up to this year. The reason they're divided for June is these leave days were taken for June, the first half of the year. But I went ahead and also added July, since the last time we've talked, we've had 2 more pays. So actually just 1 more, but I wanted to add that July just to show you. I mentioned in the finance meeting that overtime has come to a really good spot right now. And the 25th of July, you can see we only spent $6,300, which is the lowest month of the year so far, the lowest pay cycle. As I stated in the Finance Committee meeting, I believe that between 80,000 and 100,000 will get us to our finish for the year. You may look at that and say, well, Chief, if I'm looking at these months or some of these pay cycles in the 20,000 range, I don't suspect we're going to be back there. I can't predict injuries, though I can predict surgeries. We don't have any surgeries coming up or scheduled. We had a knee surgery, we had 2 knee surgeries, a hernia surgery, and a shoulder surgery that we had earlier in the year. So again, that's not a guarantee. I don't know about, can't predict injuries. I do not suspect that we should have months like that.
If my calculations are correct, it's about $275,000 for the first half of the year, including July. Does that sound?
Yes, 270. Yes.
And you feel confident that just $100,000 for the second half? I know you kind of just talked about it, but
I do think that I think that we can get by with that. Again.
Okay. I trust your judgment.
Yeah, but I can certainly give the council an update mid-quarter or going into the last quarter with what we've had injury-wise. But I think with 6,300 coming out of this last pay cycle, I expect pay or overtime to be in that range, which would actually put us below the 100,000. But
Plus we discussed in finance, because the unforeseen with him is injuries. So if it looks like we're getting that way, you just have to come back and we'll have to do an additional appropriation for him.
Sure. And I'm assuming too that part of it was looking at last year. Was there
A lot of
less
days.
overtime taken? Just typically in fall and winter, or
well,
Get a lot of
I haven't
less
really looked at
vacation,
the
is it?
months by month. I would say probably, I think some of our sick time is obviously taken for people wanting to be off, maybe for holidays and different things. So I think in the wintertime that's typically down, but I think
Okay.
I think our winter months are probably less than those vacationing months.
Chief, one thing I wanted you to mention that you talked about at the Finance Committee meeting was how you've managed to cover special events downtown and then special details out on the boat with your crews that are on duty, not with overtime.
Yeah, we've, and on the boat or on the river, we have been covering the river, any river patrol. We had the river boat, the boat was out this weekend for the concert. That was the on-duty crew. And then we just row our guys to cover that district, which is District 5 on Allison Lane. District 2 and 4 split their territory to cover it while they're on the water. So I can't say that we're never calling overtime for the boat. If there's a rescue like we had last July, 4th of July, where they had the multiple fatalities, of course we'll have some people on the boat searching. But for scheduled events, we've been covering all of our boat time with the crew that's on duty. Special events, we've been using Yellow Ambulance, and you may have seen them down there this weekend, to cover the special events. Now, we still have a contingency down there also, but it's a smaller contingency that we used to have. And we also don't cover all the special events. The ones that, this weekend was the big crowd for Jeff Goes Country, but some of the other ones, we don't even send a crew down there. The duty crew that's in District 1 will go down there and cover the event. So, and I guess we do have Steamboat Days, right? That comes up in
September.
Yeah. So we'll have a contingency down there just for the busy days of any sort of EMS runs, and we're also asked Yellow to cover some of that, Yellow Ambulance.
We do have it on tonight's agenda for our council meeting, the additional
Oh, okay.
appropriation of the 100,000, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions about fire department in general, since I'm got the floor?
Okay. Any idea when shouldn't we be close to getting new pumper tanker?
Tanker, we went and did the inspection on it last week, Monday and Tuesday. It got shipped Friday to get the additional equipment put on it, which is in Indianapolis, and we should have it this week, you think?
Maybe end of the week, first of next week.
Yeah.
Good.
That's the tanker pumper. The new ladder truck is a little bit later in the year. It's probably about October delivery. We should inspect it, they say the end of August. It's a little more detailed than the pumper, so any fixes that we have to have done will take longer. I expect it to be here October.
Have you done the inspection on that one yet? Or?
No, it's supposed to be in August,
Okay.
so.
Cool.
When did you say
It should be, we should take delivery of that this week or next week.
Well, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I don't expect you to know the exact numbers off the top of your head, but I'm trying to understand this from a little bit higher level, I guess. So the total amount approximately that was budgeted this year for overtime was how much?
The line item for overtime for this year is, I want to say 300, currently that number sits at 319,000.
Okay. And how does that compare to what was budgeted the previous year?
I have that. This is the previous 5 years. And this isn't completely accurate because some of these numbers were actually higher. I know that councilperson Z and Lisa and Matt may recognize that some of these numbers actually we had got in the 800,000 range in 2012, I think it was. But this number only indicates 517,000 because some of that money was taken out of Lloyd. Is that right, Ed, I think? So here's the numbers on overtime starting at 2011. 517, 491,000, 272, 263, and last year was 341. Too fast.
Yeah, can we work it out? You got it down.
So 2011, Vicki,
I got 517,000.
2012 is 491.
490.
13 is 272. 14 is 263. And 15 is 341.
That's not including any additional appropriations.
Right, and so my next question was going to be, so that's, let's say, just pick last year at 341, that number would not include any additional appropriation. That's just what was originally budgeted, is that correct?
I can't remember that. I think last year we did not appropriate any more money.
And was, was all 341 spent?
Yes. I think, Mr. Hawkins, that I know for sure in 2011, 2012, and 13, additional appropriations were made from what was budgeted. Last year, I don't think there was an additional appropriation for overtime last year, if I remember. Do you remember, Ed?
I don't remember.
I don't
there
think
was,
so.
But I can't say.
Yeah.
And you, and sorry if I'm just repeating something you already said, but as far as these number of days here that I'm looking at for sick leaves, workers' comp, has there been a significant change in anything you were expecting in any of these 1 days? For example, do we normally, a typical year is at 20 worker comp days and now we have 56? Like what glares out at you?
That's a good question, because actually, some of the council members might remember from last year, we had, in the department, we had 12 new babies. So we had FMLA days topped over 120, and now we have 7. So it really is a sporadic, last year we were in overtime, pressing the overtime number because of FMLA. This year, FMLA is not the problem. It's long-term surgery injuries that occurred in mid-year or early in mid-year.
And so then we're talking about workers' comp days for the most part, or are we then talking about, are they taking sick leave?
It all depends on what type of injury. If you, for example, we had one, I can't give names, one individual that had knee surgery that he had hurt, he's off duty, that's a sick time, so he takes sick time. We had another person that blew out his Achilles on duty, so that would be workers' comp days.
And are any of the workers' comp days still accumulating now?
No.
Okay.
And there's another contributing factor to this, is we had a firefighter that got replaced that was on the payroll for the first 3 months, the first quarter, that ended up going out on disability. While she was gone on disability, or out injured, now on disability, she was also missing for those 3 months. So that problem's been resolved, a new person's been hired.
But that resulted in overtime for every day that she would have.
Every day her crew was off, every day her crew was on duty, right? And the reason it does is to understand, and this is something that I know a lot of the tenured council members understand, but we have a certain amount of people can be off every day, and we have a certain amount of people on each crew. So since our numbers are where they are as far as our crews and our number of firefighters, the vacation's pretty much full every day. So when somebody takes off, we usually have a 1-person buffer where we don't need overtime. But when 2 people are off, then overtime kicks in. When 3 or 4 people's off, one's off on surgery, one's on injury, and one's off on bereavement, that's when you really start hitting the overtime, when you start hitting 2 or 3 a day, because we've got to have a minimum staffing to operate.
Also, too, I wanted to, Grant, because the new members may not realize, because they see a decline in what we budgeted from, well, you start to see it after 11, more so after 2012. It's because we hired all those additional firefighters to bring down that overtime. What did we hire?
Yeah, that was a big
11?
determining
8?
factors. We hired, I thought we hired 6. Did we hire 8? Yeah, I think it was 6. We hired some after the large overtime numbers in 2011 and 12 is then when we decided to up the staffing of the entire department, which would then lessen the overtime. So I didn't want you to think that that was just by being healthy or we actually increased the staffing. Josh?
Good questions.
How'd you know I had a question?
Oh, I could tell.
Yeah. Do you have any new firefighters besides, I think you just hired 5?
We just hired 5, correct.
Is there another hiring phase coming in?
We won't hire again until next year. We've got 3 retirees that'll happen in the first quarter of next year. So we'll be replacing them early
Is
20.
your target number, what's your target number to hire next year?
Well, we have 3, we'll be replacing all 3, so 3 retirees.
That
I mean, that's pending the budget session of additional staffing, but the 3 will be replacements.
Is there a plan to hire additional officers besides the 3 that are retiring? Because to alleviate overtime, even in a common workforce, you have to supply your workers. So I would take that to be the same thing here. You know, is that we might need more new firefighters to alleviate some of the
In the
overtime.
Just to say, I think that'd be that's a conversation when we're talking about budgeting for.
And I have a 5-year cap or a 5-year plan.
I'm sure you have a plan, so, I'd like to be privy to that information. I plan to be here for at least 3 more years.
And I do have a 5-year plan. I actually have some copies of it here that I introduced to the Finance Committee early in the year. I forget when it was, maybe March. The plan is, the long-term plan for the fire department is I feel that we need another apparatus in the east-north end, which is Station 4 out by River Ridge. That station was built for 2 fire engines, 2 fire apparatus. It only currently has 1. So my plan is to eventually, in a stagger of 4, 4, and 4, or 6, 0, 6, or however we get there in 3 years, to have enough firefighters to staff an additional apparatus out at Station 4. I honestly don't think right now that we need it. I think in another year or 2, I think you're going to see that part of town, I don't think it's a secret to anybody, as the bridge opens up, really explode. Again, that firehouse was built for 2 apparatus. We had some discussion with Les. We would like to approach River Ridge to contribute to that cost of that either fire engine or the fire staffing. I know River Ridge has talked about, we will give you the land to build a firehouse. Realistically, I don't think that this, and you guys certainly know better than me, I don't think that the city is prepared to build another firehouse given the land. I think we can take care of River Ridge for at least the next 3 to 5, 6 years with just another apparatus at Station 4. It's in a pretty good proximity to River Ridge. It's the one out there on 62 by Cunningham Camper. So it's in a good proximity. I think eventually that we will have to build a firehouse in River Ridge. I don't think it's the fix right now. I tell you that because River Ridge wants to, and again, I haven't talked with Jerry again. I want to set up a meeting with him to discuss some other options of how possibly River Ridge can contribute to the financing of fire services. And Kenny and I want to do that together because I really think they need to contribute to public services out there, public safety services together. So, but my plan, Josh, is basically to hire 12 to put another apparatus in place at Station 4 in the next 3 years.
Thank you.
Chief, you also discussed earlier in the year about, forgive me, I don't know the station number.
1, yeah.
Yeah, about the possible either repairs or a new station down there. Have you got any more thoughts on that?
We, in our budget that's coming up, we've put some money in there to try to do some renovating. I would like to maybe set a meeting with the council to try to look at the options of what to do at that station. Is it relocate the station? Is it to renovate the station? Is it to demolish and build a new building on that land, completely move to a different location and sell the land? I think the most financial would be to renovate it, but I guess somebody that has a lot more knowledge of construction would have to make that decision if it's worth renovating. The building is 60 years old, I think. 70?
50, like 50.
Yeah,
No, it's not that old.
Early 60s.
60s it was built. I think it's about 50 years old.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
about right.
But I think we're eventually going to have to look at either a major renovation there or relocating it. I don't think it's in a terrible spot. Now, if you went and looked at a flyover map, some of the folks would tell you it's too close to Clarksville, but it is awfully convenient to the interstate, to the hospitals, to the high rises, to downtown. I think there's some pros and cons because I think some of the studies will tell you to move it more toward Penn Street, that direction, more in town. I don't think the general geographic location of it is that bad response-wise, because you're easy access to both exits on the interstate, hospitals there, and all the other high-rise, and the downtown traffic is increased so much. So I think, no, to answer your question, I haven't given it any thought. We wanted to get a study on the environmental concerns of the building first, and we have contacted somebody to do that. Last thing I want to do is do a renovation plan on the building that's deemed to be,
Yeah. Unfit or unfit.
yeah, not able to be occupied.
Does anybody have anything else? Okay, Chief, thank you very much. Appreciate the information.
I appreciate you guys listening. If you have any questions, big night tomorrow, National Night Out, so we're going to be visiting, I believe it's now 17 locations.
Yes.
Does that sound right, Josh? I think it's 17. Here's a copy of what I had earlier.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Eric.
And I don't think I have a copy of
And
that.
then-
In fact, you've seen this.
Yeah.
But
I'd like a copy if you've got one.
I may have it.
Thank you. Thanks for having all of this prepared.
If you have an extra.
Do you need
It's good reading.
He's trying to get rid of it. That's the 5-year.
We didn't give out this one.
I'll just make copies and put it in your mailbox.
If you don't mind.
Everybody else, did you get one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The early 60s?
Yeah, why didn't you give me one?
You have an extra.
63, 4, somewhere around
I'll make a copy and I'll put it in the email.
I remember, I think it's older.
Get out so I know to
I
do
remember
that.
seeing the plaque on the building.
Is there anything else for discussion in the workshop?
No, motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.